Okay, so this is going to be my very unscripted workflow demonstration of how to make weapon mesh mods in Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising. I wouldn't exactly call this a tutorial, but it will show off my work process about how I get a model into the game. So I'll do my best to demonstrate that and explain things as I go along. All right, so first of all, make sure the unit scale is 0.01 in Blender. Uh, and let's make sure to export our Granblue models. For this demonstration, I'm going to use Gran's sword, his default weapon. So I'm going to go to his equip folder and the common folder, equip 0, get the mesh, export it as GLTF 2.0, and then get his materials, color 01, get these, and export these as well. And then we're also going to need, in order for it to show up in the game, we're also going to need the, not in the game, in Blender, we're also going to need the detail folder, or folder file, my bad. And we should be good regarding textures and meshes, so let's just get this to show up in Blender. Make sure to use the Unreal plugin for GLTF 2.0. It should be in as one of the resources for the Unreal Anime Discord. Very useful. So let's just find our mesh for the sword that we just extracted. Where is it again? Export, Kara, Gran, Customo, no, not Customo, Common, Quip, Mesh, Weapon. Alright, there we go. These little bone thingies are in the way, so I'm just going to turn them into stick, put them in front so they are always visible. And yeah. And just for convenience's sake, we're going to turn everything into its own. I should probably turn on instructions or a short. Yeah, now you can see all my inputs, right? Okay, so in order to make everything separate, we're just going to press P, separate by material, and now we can just hide the shadow mesh, the green part, and the outline, the cube. So now we're just left with the pure mesh, and there we go. Now we're going to want things to look like how they are in-game, sorta, so let's just make sure to append. I keep my Arc System Works Blender shader. There should be like a link to it in the Unreal Anime Discord. And I keep it in my documents folder just for convenience's sake. Go to inside the blend folder, or blend file, go to the material folder, click on Granblue Arc System Works. Then just in object mode or whatever, just click on the dummy material on the side menu, and then turn that into the Granblue's Arc System Works. Now we shall apply the textures that we extracted. Just going to use this shortcut here. Material, base, SSS, ILM, turn this to linear, and then we'll use the detail from Gran's Cosimo 1 since the weapon itself doesn't have a detail file. Alright, so this is Gran's sword. Alright, so we've got it. We got the sword in Blender. We got looking how it does in game for the most part. Now let's get to the part of actually replacing stuff. So I'm going to use a baguette or bread as the replacement mesh. So instead of a sword, he's carrying a baguette. I believe it is an object file. I downloaded it offline, off of Sketchfab. I'll probably leave like a source link in the description. Actually, why not just show the page now? Actually, yeah, this is the bread model I'm using. It's by Terry. on Sketchfab. Scanned in, apparently. Looking good. Pretty cool. Alright, well, that's the model I'm using. So we're going to use the object. I'm going to use this object file. And right now it's super tiny because it's not the same size. So I'm going to press S and scale it up so that it matches the size of the sword. Or matches closer anyway. It is upside down, so we're going to have to rotate that a little bit. What did I do? Right. Okay, so... Right, and... Just gonna turn this around. Spin it around. That's close enough. Uh-oh. Kind of lost where I am. Not really sure where I am anymore. Oops. Okay. Alright, now that we've got that undone, that craziness, back to the normal camera, let's get back to where we were doing earlier with the scaling. Now let's stretch this out a little bit. It's not going to be proportional to what it used to be, but it'll fit the sword better if we stretch it out a little bit. Let's move this a little bit. Alright, that mostly lines up with the general length. I'll accept that. Alright, so now there's probably the trickiest part is the oh, actually there's two ways to go about. No, not two ways. There's two things left we have to do. So first of all, let's just make sure to actually let's just do the armature stuff first, and then we'll get into the texture stuff afterwards. Okay, so we want this bread to move along with the armature of the sword, right? So starters, we're gonna go to click on baguette and the grand weapon armature, press Ctrl P, object keep transform, and then we'll click on the bread, go to one of the modifiers, click on data transfer. This is important, and we'll go to the mesh of the and we're going to use the source of the sword mesh, transfer some vertex groups to the bread, because vertex groups are important for making sure like which note for the armature to know which parts of the mesh to move while moving the bones. So vertex groups work with the bones basically. So Grand Weapon 02, vertex data, vertex groups, make sure these are all highlighted, and then press generate layers. Data layers, I mean. And we can just press apply there. And then we'll have to apply armature, pick grand weapon, and if we did everything right, the bread should move along with the sword. Yeah, that's good. Alright, at least in object mode. We haven't assigned any vertices and bones yet, so... Alright, that's that part down. We're actually gonna do the actual vertex group assignment after we do the textures, because it's a lot easier that way, in my opinion. Or at least that's the order I did when I was practicing this before the recording. Alright, so we're gonna go to the UV editor. We're gonna pick we're gonna look at the bread texture for the bread object, and then we're gonna select the bread in object mode, and then go to edit mode. Then we're gonna click these two arrows, UV sync selection, so we can see what the vertices look like in the UV map. So this is the general shape of the texture map, and this is how the UVs like line up with it. we're gonna want to keep this in mind of how it's generally like proportioned and scaled and where everything is placed. So I'm for simplicity's sake and for because my memory is awful, I'm just gonna take a screenshot of this and save it. Oops, that's not relevant. Just call this like bread UV map. Just close that, and then just keep that in mind for later. All right, so now we're gonna go to now we're gonna go to the sword, and we're gonna turn on grand weapon base. Excuse me, sorry. Now we're gonna figure out what we're gonna do about. Oh yeah, sorry, I was blanking it out here. Right. So what we're gonna do is apply the bread texture to the grand weapon texture, because we can't just like fuse textures together like easy peasy. We gotta actually apply it through like an image editor choice. I'm going to use GIMP in this case, so because that's a free alternative and it's one I'm more familiar with compared to Photopea. I ordinarily use Photoshop, but not everyone has that. So yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go get the texture that we're using, grand weapon. And we're going to use base. All right, and yeah. Now we're gonna try apply the bread texture to. This is where the texture for the bread is that I downloaded, and we're gonna apply it to the texture map so that our eventually our replacement mesh can use it, because it has to exist within the confines of the original texture map of Granblue. Just want to keep that proportionate. Oh, that's not right. Which transform are we using? Scale. Shift S. All right, now where should we put it? Let's just put it up at the up top. It's not like we're using any of the original textures anyway, so just have it replace this. And see, make sure it's covering everything. It's a little out of bounds, but all right, that should be good. And we're just gonna overwrite TGA. This will be our new texture. And we're gonna just reload it. Let me hide the bread there here for a sec. So you're gonna see that it's changed. Our sword's gonna look like bread now, but don't worry, we're gonna fix that later by just replacing the sword entirely. Yeah, so right after that, we're gonna do the same for the SSS texture. Instead of opening the SSS texture, I'm just gonna use this base texture and make it darker by using the brightness and contrast settings. I'll just turn it to like, last time when I was practicing, I just turned it down to 80, and that looked dark enough to me. Yeah. And then I'll just export as, and then WSSS, file type, TGA Targa. Yes, I will replace it. Export, just use default settings. Now we show a reload, and now sword should have both light and dark shaded textures. All right, but we don't want this on the sword. We want this on the bread and stuff. So here's where we get with the actual replacing part. Since we've already assigned all the vertex groups to the original bread, we don't need the sword anymore. So let's just delete that. Now, it's just our bread, but it's not part of the sword yet, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take this bread's material and convert it to the Granblue Arc System Works thing, right? But see, it's all screwed up. It doesn't look right. That's normal. Now you see, this is where the screenshot is going to come in handy, because we want to be able to replicate what the UV map looked like back when it was, you know, normal, back with like the original object mesh and material. So this is what it looked like normally before we applied a different texture. So we're just gonna try and scale the UV maps to look like this screenshot again. So I'm just gonna scale it by Y vertical and just move it up a little bit. Still a little too tall. Oops, I accidentally hit it. All right, let's see how this looks. Go back to object mode. Oh, there we go. This looks fine, but no, there's still some lines over there. That's probably due to the ILM texture, so. Uh-oh, this might be something you need to consider, because last time when I practiced this, I actually had the UV maps at the texture of the bread placed in this green area in this empty space, which is probably would have been a better idea to do that, but hindsight 2020. But this is actually a good time to show off like what you might need to do, because sometimes there's no room to move away from ILM textures. So we're gonna open this ILM texture in GIMP. So I'm gonna make a new file thingy, and then we're gonna open that ILM texture, and common equip material color 1 ILM, and since we're not really using any of it, we can just make it all go away, just erase it all. I'm sure there's a fancy way of doing things that will make it look better and stuff if we preserve the ILM or make our own, but I'm not going to do that for this tutorial, so I'm just going to make it all blank and just use our mesh as is. And let's see. Alright, well, we're not getting the option to overwrite, so I guess we'll just have to export as. TGA. Alright, and now we're gonna reload this, and now you won't have any of those weird lines anymore. All right, so now I think we're done texture wise. It's just we're not going to use the shadow mesh. We're going to make our own. I'm not really sure what it'll do, but I just make a duplicate and use the shadow mesh material just in case. Do I do Grand to Baguette, or yeah, okay, that'll keep the name. All right. So now we're gonna add a material because we deleted the shadow mesh one, and we're gonna name it MI Care Shadow. Now there's no vertices assigned to this at the moment, but we're gonna change that real quick. So we're going to select the object, the bread that has replaced the sword. Go to edit mode, select all of them, but we're going to deselect the outline cube. Press Shift D to duplicate all the vertices, and we're not going to move it, we're just going to leave it as is. We're going to click, but we're not going to click off yet, and then we're going to press Assign to Kara Shadow. This will assign the duplicate mesh to the Kara Shadow mesh. So when we move this will be the regular mesh. And then when you move MI Kara Shadow vertices, we get the green one. All right, so now we've got our stuff assigned, we got our textures applied, so now we know it'll show up correctly in the game. And now we just got to assign vertex groups to vertices to vertex groups. Sorry for the motorcycle passing by. Can't really do much about that. So we're gonna go back to this edit mode. We're gonna select everything. Sorry, I hit the mic. Deselect the outline cube. Or actually, no, wait. Let's start with the outline cube. We've got it selected real quick. As you can see here, yeah. So we're going to assign this to weapon root, because that's usually where the outline cubes are assigned, weapon root. And then we're going to assign the shadow and the base, or whatever, the normal mesh to, I typically assign it to weapon base or weapon grip. Both are okay, but I'm just going to assign it to weapon base just in case, because that's what I know works. So we're going to do that. And now, if everything turned out right, we should be able to move the bread in pose mode. Yeah. And weapon root. Yep. Okay, vertices are assigned, bones work. And we can just leave the rest of the bones alone, unless you want to have like proper, like, you know, curving during like, you know, motion and stuff like that, or like thank you. Right. Sorry about that. I'll just have to edit that out. But yeah, we got the armature applied to the bread, and we don't need to like apply it again, but whatever. Just apply the modifier. There's no harm in doing so. And then we're gonna name the armature armature. Now we should be good to go. So let's just we don't need to select everything. We just need to go to export as FBX, select armature and mesh, pressing shift to select both, but whatnot. Otherwise you'll just click on only one. So click on armature and mesh, click off bake animation, click off add leaf bones. And then we'll just name it Grand Weapon or GRN Weapon, right? Yeah. Yeah, that was my mod from earlier, my practice mod, so sorry about that. All right, now then, we're gonna replicate the file folder structure of Grand's everything. So Kara, Grand, comment, clip 00, material mesh. And then we're gonna, let's just do this ahead of time, color 01. And we're just gonna apply our texture, our replacement textures. We'll just do bulk edit via property matrix, turn off sRGB for all of them, save all, All right, and now for the mesh itself. This is the proper file folder structure, right? Customer 1, common, equip 0, material, mesh. Yeah, this looks right. Right, and then we'll go to ground weapon. And we'll include the skeletal mesh. Wait, is there a reason it's not including it? Weird. Let's double check that. Okay, so let's select both. Export, armature, mesh. Settings are all right. Export. And then we'll, yeah, this is the most up-to-date version. Why is it only including a skeletal mesh? It's weird. Couldn't load 3D model, bizarre. Okay, so we seem to be coming across an error for some reason that the mesh is not showing up. Maybe we gotta keep the armature thing modifier on. Troubleshooting in real time, real professional. Felix. All right, yeah, Brett's showing up now. Okay, now then, we'll just import the bread and the skeletal mesh of it. All right, now it's showing up properly. So we're gonna make sure the settings import normals, built-in normal generation, turn off compute weighted normals, turn off create physics asset, do not search for location, do not create material, import, everything else can stay at default. Just wait for it to load. Might take a little while. All right, and then let's just apply the material outline material index properly. So first one will always be 1, the outline will be 2, and everything else will be -1 usually. The names really don't matter, but just for consistency with the original, I'm just going to rename this back to material 0. All right, and this is the key part a lot of people mess up. You need to move the skeleton. It's not supposed to be in the same folder as the weapon mesh. So we're going to go back to Gran. We're going to go to costume 01. We're going to go to mesh. We're going to create a mesh folder. Right. Yeah, that's right. And notice here that the weapon skeleton is in the mesh folder of costume 01, not in the equipped mesh folder. So we're gonna move the skeleton and put it here. Right? Yeah. And now it should be here. All right. Everything should be in the right place. And we can cook content for Windows. Now I have the loose file loading turned on, so I can just test files out really quick without needing to do it via assigning via drag and dropping packs into the mods folder or whatever. So I'm just going to use that instead. Just going to drag the files directly. So we're in Granbread, saved, cooked, Windows Editor, Granbread, content. Just going to copy that. Then we're going to go to the properties, installed files, browse, red, content. Yeah, I already had test files there, so never mind the replace part. That's not going to show up for you. And then we'll delete the skeleton. And then we'll turn on the game. And hopefully, if we did everything right, Grand's default sword should be, or Brett's should be a baguette now. So let's just go into training mode. And there we go. Grand's sword is now bread. It didn't work on the vertex colors, so the outlining is going to be all funky and weird, but this is just the basics of just getting the bread to show up in the game, or not the bread, your 3D replacement mesh. I forgot I had voices turned off, but yeah. Yeah, that's Grand wielding bread. And there you go. That's my workflow. Hope this helps.